need inspiration, motivation, or hope? Do you let fear hold you back? Sometimes you feel lost or just stuck in your own thoughts, and you want a clear path to give you results. Then, my friend, you are in the right place. My name is Rachel Best, and I am your host of How to Make a Mark in the World, Finding Your Signature. Go ahead and grab a pen and paper because you're going to want to take notes. Oh my goodness. Today, hello, Ivy.
Hi,
Good morning. We have an amazing special guest this morning, and I am so excited that she is on here today to just share her heart. How long has it been? Maybe 6 months ago?
Not very long, within the
No.
year. Within the
Yeah.
year.
I think, yeah, maybe April, May, something like that. So maybe about 6 months ago, that I got the opportunity to cross paths with Miss Ivy. And when we connected, we just connected. And she has a heart of gold, and she's just so inspiring. She's an amazing woman. And I wanted her to be on here today with us to just share her heart, her story, whatever she desires to share, because she has an amazing story and she's such an inspiration. So Ivy, go ahead and tell us, how are you making a mark in the world?
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for the honor to just share on your platform,
Thank
because
you.
you just never know. You just never know who you're going to inspire. And I know I'm inspired every day. I'm inspired by you. I mean, you just recently launched your membership, and I think it's so great. You know, we're
Yeah.
all in a place in our lives where we we step up in some way, and sometimes we don't know what that thing is for us. We just keep on showing up and we keep on doing something, and then eventually we feel stronger and more confident, and then things come along the way just by being in community, and people pouring into us and we pouring into others, kind of thing. So I'm a forever student, and I'm always growing, and I love challenging myself. So a little bit about my background. So, and a lot of people know this, not everyone. I am 5 years, five and a half, approximately 5.5 years sober from alcohol. So it
That's
was just,
amazing. Congratulations.
it was one of those things that was, I didn't think I had a problem for the longest time until the thought and that feeling was, ooh, I think I have a problem. And it's still then, when I had that thought, took probably about 10 years or more before I actually was done. So everything in life, everything we do, everything we want is it's a process. And one thing I learned is, it's everything happens twice, first in thought and then in physical form. And when I learned that, I was like, oh, that's so good. Because when you really think about the things that you say, whether it's something positive moving forward or something that's negative, that it's almost self-sabotaging, you create it. As you do. Our words are powerful, whether we speak it out loud or we speak it to ourselves. So I remember this was in my late 30s when I had that thought that I might have a problem. And that came from an accident, actually. And then it just still took a long time before I finally said no. So fast forward a little bit. So 5.5 years ago, when I decided I was done now, and I knew this, that's level one. That's level one, phase one. I knew that, because you just don't say no to something and all of a sudden your life is, hunky dory. It's just not. It's like, okay, I just made a big decision. Now what?
Mm.
Who am I? Who am I to be? Who am I without it? How am I supposed to show up, in my to myself and my family, friends, all these things is all in my head. And then one of the things that crossed my path too was James Clear's Atomic Habits, not
Mm.
just his book. I listened to his podcast. And one of the things that struck me was the 2-minute rule. And I didn't realize this until actually recently, because I didn't put it together that I got this thought from him. But the more I thought about it, I was like, it actually came from him. So it was that year that I said no to alcohol. I was like, okay, well, what can I do that I can stick with. Like I've run marathons in my past. I always say I'm a former marathoner. I've run marathons, I've done half marathons. I know it's crazy. I'm always doing something. But it was one of those things where I would train for something, I would do it, and then be like, okay, I'm done. I did it. So it's kind of like I go for something and I'm done. And I go for something and I'm done. And that was kind of something that I learned as a child, not physically taught, just what we observed and we gained as we were growing up. We moved like on average 3 years. So I went to a lot of schools. I was always in a different neighborhood, sometimes a different state, and it wasn't the military. There's just issues that my parents had that unbeknownst to a child, you just go with the flow. So that stop and go, stop and go, stop and go became my MO as an adult. So stop
Mm.
and go with jobs. It was the stop and leave with relationships. It was easy for me to do that because I always did it. So it wasn't something that bothered me much. As a kid, yes. But then as an adult, for me, I thought it was almost like a badge. I could go wherever I want, do whatever I want, all these things. But I had a client when I had lived in Arizona for 10 years and I was in real estate at the time. And just in conversation, I was telling him about all the things that I did and all the places that I moved. And he's like, what are you running away from? And I'm like, I'm not running away from anything. Well, ironically, that question stuck with me. And I kept on really thinking, well, I'm not running away. Am I running away? I don't think so. And one morning, it's like one of those where you're in a dead sleep and out of nowhere, nothing, not a dream. It just kind of, I woke up like, and I went, oh my God, I'm running away from me. Like
Wow.
it just came to me like I'm running away from me. And that was the first seed in that you need to work on you. You need to
Mm.
work on yourself and try to figure out why you do what you do. Why are you drinking the way you drink? Why are you putting yourself in situations that are not healthy for you? Why do you keep self-sabotaging yourself? All these things. So that was the beginning process of personal development and self-development and all these things. It takes a long time and I'm still learning. I'm 53 going on 54 and I'm still
You look amazing.
thank you. So, going back to the 2-minute rule, it was one of those things where what can I do that I could really stick with it? Like something that is just who I am,
Mm.
what I do, consistent no matter what, no matter weather, attitude, whatever's going on in my life, what can I do? And I really thought about that. And I thought, well, I like exercise. I do it. I don't do it every single day, but I do it. I enjoy it. I know it's good for me. It makes me feel good. Okay. And then I thought, well, I could do 2 minutes, because we all have that excuse, like, I don't have time. And it's true. I mean, in a lot of respects, we do. We're going and going and going. And we tend to put certain things on the back burner that we'll get to. I'll get
Mm.
to that kind of thing. And but I was like, I value that. Uh, and so I was like, I could do 2 minutes. And so I looked on YouTube and I found 2-minute stretches. And I'm like, holy crap, there's actually 2-minute stretches. Like, okay. And that's how it started. I kid you not.
Wow.
It's how
That's
it started.
amazing.
And I did 2 minutes every single day. It took probably a few weeks when I started to feel like, okay, like I'm wanting to do it, and it was first thing in the morning. I get up and I get on the floor and I do a stretch. So the 2 minutes led to 5, led to 10, that kind of thing. And it actually got to a point where over the course of a year's time, when a triathlon crossed my path. Now, that was a seed in my mind when I was like 20 years old. Someone, a guy that I worked with, he had done a triathlon. I had asked him, like, how was your weekend? He was like, it was great, Ivy. I did a triathlon. I'm like, oh my God, you just what? And he told me, he was like, you should try it one day. So that was the seed. Of course, for me, I was like, I can't do that. That's for people like you, that's for
Mm.
people, whatever. That 30 years later, 30
Wow.
years later. So here
Wow.
it is. And I had somebody ask me, a friend of mine, she asked me, she goes, do you think, as I'm always doing challenging myself, she goes, do you think that because you're not drinking anymore, that you're trying to fill a void? And I was like, no. But I thought, again, another question that was thought provoking. I really thought about that. Like, am I trying to fill a void? So I was very honest with my answer, and it is no, but it's also a yes and no, because there was a part of me that was filling something that Ivy Perez, needed in her life.
Mm.
And so that was a seed that was like a dream to do a triathlon that I didn't think that I was capable of doing. And I wasn't with alcohol. But now that it
Mm.
was not in my life, now I was open to receiving what it is I was to receive so that I could step into that bigger, better version of
Wow.
myself. And I'm still level one, phase one in my life. And so I think it was a year later, I saw an email and I always looked. That's the funny thing. I would look at races all the time, like, oh, wow, that would be so cool. I didn't know how to swim. I didn't own a bike. I could run, but all the other things. So I would look at races and say to myself, that would be so cool, but that's an hour away. I'm not going to wake up 2 hours early to travel and do all that. Oh, that one's really cool, but that's 2 hours away or that's 3 hours away. I'm not, as if I could or would do it. But I use that as an excuse to myself.
Mm.
One day, an email crossed my path. I looked at it, and triathlon was literally in my backyard, 15 minutes away.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember looking up, going, are you kidding me?
No more running, right?
And I was like, I can't use distance as an excuse. And I was like, okay, um, all right, I guess I'll register. So I registered. So now I had time because that was December 20th. It doesn't matter. It was the end of December when I registered. And you know, it's cold. I live
Mm.
in New Jersey. So I'm like, I have at least 4 or 5 months before I really get out there and start. So I didn't say anything to anyone. But I wrote it down in my calendar in, I believe it was March. I put right on top, start triathlon training. So when that month rolled around and I opened up my calendar, I'm like, okay, Ivy, are you going to do this? And I'm like, all right, let's do it. Again, I didn't know how to swim. I didn't own a bike. And one of the things I learned too is opportunities will come not when they're convenient and not
Mm.
when everything is lined up, because money was a factor. And so I didn't have money for a bike. Um, uh, I would have to, you know, go to a pool, pay for a community center, all these things. So I'm like, okay. Well, luckily for me, my husband used to like, he was a lifeguard and all these things. So I had him as my coach. So thankfully, and then with the bike, it just, all the things started to fall in place. And there was someone at the pool who was selling her bike, and it was a very good bike
Oh my
at a
gosh.
good price. It was still kind of pricey, but at a good price because I looked. I didn't jump at the chance. I thought about it. I reached out to her. I saw the bike and I was like, let me just do a little research. So I went down the rabbit hole of researching prices, went to the store, this, that, the other thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Ivy, you were just given, you know, you're handed someone that's in your path that has something for you. Accept it because that's the way it's supposed to be, kind of thing. And I'm like, okay. So then that's how that started. And I completed my first triathlon last year at 52 years old, one
Wow.
month, 1 month, 2 months shy of my 53rd. And then this year I did my second. So I'll be 54 next month. And that's it. I got bit by the bug, you know. So I'm going to continue. My big goal is an Ironman, but I'll start with a half Ironman, but that's, you know, maybe in a year, 2 years from now. But one of the things, and I always say to people, because, you know, that tagline there, to your health and well-being, is, you know, for me, when I started with this 2 minute stretching and then it led to yoga, and yoga for me was like huge because especially if anyone has any trauma or just stuff
Mm.
in their background, yoga grounds you. Yoga gets you to a place where it centers you and you get to a point where you start to have that safe feeling and within yourself, and also the belief. You start to build a belief in yourself. And I think for a lot of people who don't have who have had trauma, that um that feeling of safety is not always there. That feeling of I can do it
Mm.
is not always there. And that for me was it got me to a place where I could work through and always know that I could depend on me. Like I could really depend on me. And that is how that started. And then walking. I tell people all the time, I've done the marathons and it's not for everyone. And now I'm doing the triathlon. And it's not for everyone. I people tell me all the time, that is so awesome for you. I wouldn't want to do that, but it's great for you. And I'm like, that, yeah, it's not for everyone. That was placed on my heart.
Mhm.
That is my pull. There is something that we all have that's pulling at us, something bigger, greater that we haven't yet achieved. And we have to pay attention to that. And so, did I think I could achieve it? I was like, I didn't think I could, but it crossed my path. I'm like, really? Like in my backyard, which funny enough, I spoke with a gentleman the first time last year and I go, is this the first year? He goes, no, this has been going on for like 8 years. I'm like, I've never seen it. Never seen it. So this was
Wow.
divine. The time,
Right.
and that's the filling the void. I wouldn't have seen it because when you let go, when you commit, when you make a decision, now you open yourself up to receiving the things you are supposed to receive that have always been there, but you
That's
were
good.
closed to seeing it, hearing it, and all these things. So yeah, long-winded. That's Ivy.
Wow, that's incredible. Like I took some notes here and that's oh my gosh, that last thing that you just said that had been there for 8 years and you didn't even know it, right in your
Crazy.
backyard.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
Then you definitely knew it was a divine moment that moment was for you. And I love how you said now you got bit by the bug. So now you're on to the next thing. And so I mean it's just so cool that you like there's just so many pieces that you talked about that are um so relevant to a lot of people. And we're like onions. So we're never done learning. We're never done I love how you said you're a student. Be a student every single day, because we can. When we think that we know everything, that's when we
We get
start
knocked
going.
down.
Yeah, we start going backwards. And so, again, you said so many things, stepping up, showing up, being a student, the 2-minute rule, and the seed in your mind. Like, there's just so many good nuggets that you shared that were just very inspiring. And so, it's crazy again that, like, when you were 20, it took 30 years. So, again, like, that is just such from the time that it was a seed at 20 years old, and it took 30 years of you nurturing it and growing. You maybe you didn't even know. Did you know that you were nurturing and growing it?
I didn't up until probably maybe about 5 years ago when I did a vision board
Mm,
and I was going through magazines and I actually saw a gentleman coming out of the water with the number down his arm.
uh-huh.
And I was like, I knew exactly what that was. I was like, ooh, I would love to do that. So I cut it out. So little did I know. And they say the power of, visuals. I would look at it, not every single day, but I would look at it and I'm like, one of these days, one of these days. Now, was I swimming? No. Was I bike riding? No. But I kept on saying, one of these days, one of these days. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You just kept believing it and speaking it and you it just went through the process of those things that you had to let go of, that you had to heal from, that you had to be open to
Right.
receiving. And there's just so many things that you shared with us about your story that are just so inspiring. And you're an inspiration. Like that's how you're making a mark in this world. Like you're just such an inspiration of, getting rid of excuses, right? And just just doing the things that are on your heart, and no matter what, and finding that community. Like I love being in so many different communities with you, because whenever I see Ivy on, I'm like, oh, there's Ivy. It's just so exciting to see your face and to see your name, and you always know you can count on Ivy. If you need some encouragement, Ivy's there. She's amazing. So, tell us a little bit about, like, what is next for you? Like, what are you? I know you're going to be doing a triathlon, a half Ironman. Um, when is that going to happen?
I would love to do it next year, but more than likely it'll be in 2 years, within two
Okay.
years.
Oh, you said
For
that.
sure.
You said that. My apologies. My apologies. So where do you see you going next? Like what's next for, I mean, my goodness, we only have 2.5 months left of 2023. So what do you see in 2024 for you?
Well, right now what I'm working on. So here's another challenge that I'm embarking on. And I just started today. Today was day one. So it's the 75 hard.
Hmm.
So that's something that I've heard of, I think a year ago, looked into it, but kind of whatever. But it was one of the gentlemen that we know, Jose Escobar, he started a group, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do it. So that's a challenge. And
That's
for me,
awesome.
it's not about the the training. That is, I don't want to say easy, um, but for me, it's the mental discipline. Surprisingly enough, we all have something, and like I said before, I don't exercise every single day. I'll walk maybe 4 or 5 times out of the week, kind of thing. So this is every single day and 2 times a day. So I'm like, okay, that's going to be tough, but I'm for it. So just to see, one, who I am in the process and who I become in 75 days. That's how I look at it. I've always looked at things that way. I've never been the one to be the victim. Like, why
Mm.
is this happening to me? But I will ask, hmm, why is this happening to me? What am I supposed to learn from this? And you don't get the answer. You just kind of keep on moving forward. So that's the last quarter of 2023. I'm working on a program. So here's the thing with me, and when I started this triathlon journey last year, I started posting about it. Because for me, I was like, I don't know where this triathlon is going to go. I have no idea, but I'll just talk about it. And maybe something, again, who am I to become? What is going to happen, kind of thing. And maybe I can inspire some people along the way. So I was doing that. And then I was known as the triathlete. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not a triathlete. I just did one. Like, I'm not a triathlete. But then I wanted to do it again because I didn't want to be the one and done.
Mm.
I wanted to see, can I do it again? And so I found some things about myself that I'm like, okay, there's things I need to work on myself the second go around. And a lot of it is discipline.
Mm.
So, okay, so now, and it's taken close to 2 years where I'm like, okay, this is who I am. Like I've embraced it
Hmm.
for a while.
Embodied it.
For a
Hmm.
while, I was like, no, 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 don't call me a tri. Like I'm not. There's other people that have done like triathlons, like they're the triathlon. I did it one time. Like, come on, I'm not a triathlete. But but I embraced this. So I'm like, you know what? If I keep on going, so that's who I am. And so for me, it's really about the doing the little things that will help you to be a better person. And I really, really tout walking. Just walk. Start there because that's where people get hung up on the big thing. Well, I want to
Mm.
lose 50 pounds. And so I got to go to the gym. I got to work 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. And it's like, that's not sustaining. It's just
Hmm.
not sustaining. So if you start small, let's say, for example, 2 minutes, like, is it going to be a major change? Absolutely not initially. But if you stick with it every single day, day in, month out, yeah, you're going to start changing. You're going to start to do more. You're going to start to want to do it. You're going to start to feel the difference. Your thinking is going to change. The mindset is going to change. You're going to start to eat better and all these things. So I'm like, just start with walking. Don't look at, 50 pounds or look at the triathlon. Just start with what you can with what you have. So for a while, I have a program that I was working on. And because I've shifted in my personal life, that is shifting to more of the health and well being for people. And yes, there's walking, but it's all about nutrition. It's the mind, the mindset for anything is
Hmm.
like the umbrella. You don't have the mindset, you can't achieve whatever it is. And Jose Escobar brought this up to me the first time. It was Michael Hyatt's book, Your Best Year Ever. And in
Mhm.
the book, he talks about the 10 life domains. And I absolutely love that because we have a lot of pillars in our life. And so the 10 life domains is a life wheel. It's really great. It's such a great visual just to like pinpoint where you are now and pinpoint where you want to be. And so I talk about that a lot. And um, as everything relates to health and wellness for me, that's my coaching, and that's where I encourage, and that's where I push, and that's where I help people with the mindset of it's not about the thing, it's about starting small.
Mm.
You got to do the little things. It's even checking the labels behind some of the things that we buy. And I always start with peanut butter. Like peanut butter, mostly if you're not allergic to it, everyone loves peanut butter. But if you don't look at the label, a lot of it is like hydrogenated oils and palm oil and sugar and
Mhm.
molasses. And you don't need that. You just need peanuts. That's it.
Mhm.
Just peanuts, maybe a little salt. That's it. So it's like little things like that. It's just being mindful of the hidden sugars. There's a lot of sugar in all our foods. So it's that. And it's all the mindset. It's a lot of people know it, but they don't realize it. And it's just taking the little tiny steps to help you with your health and nutrition. And one of the things that I also am big on is understanding your stressors and your triggers because we all have it. And especially if you have like stuff in the past, that'll come up. As we all know, it'll come up and we self-sabotage ourselves. And again, the 10 life domains is always something, and I'm challenged. I'm challenged and I'm working through things, but not unless you're aware of it, can you start to even move in the direction of fixing it and helping
Mm.
yourself through it. And that's part of surrounding yourself with people, being in community, getting a coach, all these things to help you see things in a different way. And that's what I've been doing. So right now it's the health and wellness for people. And it's not just exercise, it's everything.
Well, I'm excited. So when are you releasing that?
I should be releasing that this week. And I'll probably start at the end of the month. I'm still working on it. I have this thing like I want everything to be perfect first. And I have to just put it out there, Ivy. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Like that, Jesse actually, when he was on my summit, he said, messy action is better than no action. And that helps with that perfection. And I feel like as we put things out there, it might be messy for a minute, but I feel like the messiness is where you get your clarity. That's where
Absolutely.
you course correct. That's where you learn and you grow. And
Yeah.
so I'm excited for you to release that. Definitely. Are you going to release it on your page, or like where can we find this
I'll
at?
release it on my page and then I'll like
Okay.
distribute it everywhere.
Awesome. That's exciting. And like I just have to share, like you were speaking, like when you were just talking about like what you're doing, like you're speaking right to me because like just doing that 2 minutes, so I was a part of I'm still affiliated with a weight loss program, and I lost 100 pounds, but over the last, course I kept most of that off, but over the last, like since January, like I there was just some things um that I ended up like eating, and then I ended up gaining about 40 to 50 pounds, probably about 50 pounds. And so I actually put a post out there a couple, I don't know, about 3 weeks ago, and just said, hey, and I had such a response of people that are like, oh my gosh, I want to too. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm ready to lose the excuses, I'm ready to lose whatever it was that, whatever. And so that's the past, right? And so I started to do 6 days a week. I'm like 30 minutes, because okay, so we live in a camper, right? And like I have a watch, and sometimes, Ivy, when I look at my watch, I'm not even done, like, and because I'm either writing or I homeschool my son, or I don't move a lot. So
Yes.
some days, like, it's sad. Like I have like 13 to 1500 steps. That's it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, and I might burn like 300 calories. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is horrible.
Yeah. It's tough. And one of the things that for me personally, because I'm a morning person, I know if I don't get a walk in at the very least, it's not going to happen, because once I'm up and I get dressed and I have my coffee and I start my day, get my daughter on the bus for school and all these things, it's just not going to happen. Then I sit down and I start working. So for me, and maybe this will help you, it's before everybody gets up. And at first it's kind of hard and it's dark and all these things, but and if it's just a couple of minutes, start there. And then you could do your 30 minutes later. But it's the psychology of it, of showing up for you. And that's it. And James Clear talks about a guy who needed to lose, I think 100 pounds. And what he did to get into the habit of becoming the person who works out every day was he would get up, get dressed, drive to the gym, walk in, do 2 minutes, and he would leave. That's it. Could he have done more? I'm sure he could. There are days when we have more energy, and that's it. So he was becoming the person that would get up and go to the gym. And there's a quote that he says that I absolutely love, and I have it written down on my whiteboard. And it's every action you take is like a vote for the person that you want to become.
Oh, that's good. Say that again. Every action you
take is like a vote for the person you want to become. And I was like, okay, that's good. That's really good.
That is.
And even the negative actions, reaching for, whatever, the junk food, this, that, the other thing, you're voting for yourself, but not in a positive way. Sure, we have junk food every once in a while. I mean, I'm not perfect. I like junk food, but it's just being mindful about it. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's good. That's good. I'm going to write that down too and stick it on my wall. But yeah, like it was just such an inspiration. Like you've just inspired me to just keep, I actually, I started in that group, I started a 14-day challenge with the people that are in there, to do 45 minutes of exercise and drinking 100 ounces of water and, for the next 14 days. And, just it is, like I said, you're just speaking to me. Like I started off with 30 and I'm like, okay, 30 minutes is not enough. 30 minutes of workout is not enough. I'm noticing a difference, but
and maybe it's too much. Sometimes we look at 30 minutes, we're like, that's not a lot of time, and it's not. But maybe with everything you have, maybe that's too much right now to create the habit of sticking with it. Enough that is who you are. Maybe you need to scale that back a little.
That's a good perspective. That's a really good perspective. Well, that's why I started at 30, because I'm like, okay, 30 minutes. I can do 30 minutes of walking, or, I have a couple different videos that I like to watch and do. But yeah, so I started the challenge today, so I'll do the 45 minutes. And I don't have anything coming up for the next 3 weeks. So there's no reason that I cannot get an extra 45 minutes of workout in. And also I did 6,000 steps because I'm like, oh my goodness, like I was only, like I said, I'm only getting under 2,000 steps. I'm like, that is just ridiculous. So we need
to go for a walk. Go for a walk. And you know what? Call somebody. Call a family member. Call somebody. And before you know it, that 45 minutes is up.
That's true. That's true. That's amazing. Well, Ivy, I've loved just you sharing your story, oh my gosh, you shared so many good little quotes, and I'm going to get that 10 life domains, and there's just so many things that you shared today that, I hope that the people that listened, I'm sure you inspired them and they took down some notes, and I appreciate you, and you keep shining bright, and, you keep doing what you do best, and just encouraging people and just always being amazing. So,
and you too.
Thank you. All right. This is your host, Rachel Best, and I hope you loved the show. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel, as well as share with a friend. If you would like, you can follow me on Instagram as well as Facebook under Rachel Best. You can also find me on my website at rachelbestspeaks.com.